Sometimes something can be so interesting it inspires you to do something similar. Sometimes, when doing something similar, things go horribly wrong. That's what happened with my dad over the past week, in the weirdest way possible. Earlier this month, Dad walked into my room with a great big smile and asked me if I had heard about the MSG sphere in Las Vegas. He told me he wanted to build his own mini sphere so we could have our own LED sphere at home. I liked the idea and encouraged him to make it a reality. Imagine having a cool display of your own creation in the comfort of your own home. He loved to build stuff, and he was pretty good at it too, so I was confident he could make something cool. He spent hours each day working in the garage, working away on his sphere. I'd check on him every now and then to see how far along he'd gotten. While it sounded crazy that he wanted to build his very own sphere, it would be cool to have our very own sphere at all. The sphere looked like it was going to be twice his height, and he was 6 feet tall. Once the sphere got too big for the garage, my dad built a tent in the backyard and moved his workstation along with the sphere in progress underneath it. On Sunday, the actual structure was completed. It turned out to be 30 feet tall. On Monday night, he brought me outside to take a look at the finished product. He flipped a switch. The sphere glowed. First, it became a basketball. Then it turned into the Death Star. Then it was the shimmer. To be honest, it was really cool, especially the fact he made one himself. I stared at it for at least 10 minutes that night before heading back inside. My bedroom had a window facing the backyard. The light from my dad's sphere created a light glow in my room. I didn't have a problem with it, but then I woke up at 5 a.m. to banging while its light was still shining. It sounded like it was coming from the backyard, so I stood up and peeked out my window. What I saw puzzled me. My dad was inside the sphere, but the sphere wasn't transparent. It was a metal dome with a screen covering it. Unless my dad created an ultra-realistic video of himself knocking and crying in a white space, I'm not exactly sure what was going on. He usually wakes up at 6 a.m. to go to work, so it was only an hour from then. I went over to his room to check on him, but he wasn't in his bed. As I looked on in confusion, my mom walked in. "You're looking for him too. He doesn't seem to be in the house, or in the front or backyard." I wasn't sure what to say. There was no way my dad was somehow digitized and being held hostage by his own LED sphere. I went out back to take a closer look at the sphere. It was displaying a video of a bird gliding through the air. Then it switched to a video of a skeleton with my own eyes. I just felt they were my own. Like when I look in the mirror, it sent chills down my spine. But what made it worse was what I heard. "Come over." A crackly, weak voice told me to walk up to it. My heart sank. What the hell was even going on? The sphere wanted my dad, and now it wanted me. But for what? The sphere moved 1 inch towards me. This was really happening. I sprinted back inside, warned my mom about the sphere, and went straight to my room. I sat underneath the window, out of view of the living sphere. A few minutes of hiding later, I peeked out the window to see what's going on with the sphere. The thing sat 10 feet away from the house, displaying an image of a brown zombie with bleeding eyes and without a jaw. It, of course, had my dad's eyes, and it was clawing at the screen too. A baseball bat that was lying to the right of the sphere levitated off the ground and entered the sphere, then smacked the zombie in the head over and over until the monstrosity could barely stand. The bat then pointed right at my face. The sphere wanted to torture me. Was it possessed by a demon or something? The pit in my stomach grew. What the hell did Dad use to make his sphere? The sphere switched its display to a video of a man who bore an insane resemblance to me right down to my hair at that specific moment. My doppelganger stood in a dark forest. 3 10-feet tall dogs, or bears, stood behind him, breathing white flames and black smoke. Their mouths opened up wide, letting out even more fiery breath. Chills ran down my spine, and my copy ran for his life. The beasts chased him out of the forest and into the parking lot of what looked like a restaurant, crushing to rubble every patio table in their way. My copy hid behind a car. The car was then crushed entirely by the 3 beasts. The windows shattered, and the doors were folded. Outside the sphere, the trees on the other end of the backyard began to sway back and forth. A roar echoed out. My heart sunk. This shit was real, and it was about to happen to me. I sprinted back inside and hid in my bedroom yet again. Breathing heavily, I called the police. I was able to speak clearly, but my heart rate kept jumping every time I heard the trees move. It didn't help that I peeked out the window and saw some flames light up the area behind the trees for 2 seconds. The beasts were really there, and they wanted to kill me for, I assume, their own survival. I peeked out the window once more to see the silhouette of the beasts roaming around in the backyard. Once police sirens began to blare in the distance, the beasts left. I sighed in relief. Once the police arrived, they noted they were only taking me seriously because both of the neighbors reported wild animals trying to start fires in the forest behind my house. They investigated the area and, of course, as they told me, they found nothing. The following night, my mom and I were watching TV in the living room. I had a gun sitting right beside me in case any more stuff went down. I wasn't going out back without the gun either. They heard a loud banging at the front door. I jumped out of my seat thinking it was those beasts. The door came crashing down, hitting the floor with a thud. A bunch of people in suits, some suits blue, others black, poured in. We've detected a hazardous material on your property. Please comply with our orders as we walk you through this. My mom, looking frozen, asked her what she was talking about. Before she could answer, she got a call on her radio. All right, she said. She slid her radio back into her pocket. It's in the backyard. It takes the shape of a sphere. He then looked towards my mom and I. Please come with us. We're heading to your backyard. I picked up my gun, then we followed the agents out into the backyard. The sphere was showing a view below the sea with what looked like torn pieces of flesh floating up towards the surface. I shuddered, knowing that's what my dad's sphere wanted to happen to me, and that somehow it was real. I, in a very shaky tone, explained to the agents why the sphere was there and the reason my dad wanted to build it. The agents watched the sphere. Some flesh was thrown up against the screen, inspiring a pit in my stomach. I pointed my gun at the sphere, vowing to shoot it if it moved. It likes to threaten me, but I can and will defend myself. As I watched the sphere, a man in a black suit walked by and spoke to a nearby man in blue. This is an interesting one. Yeah, this one's been taken over and is attempting to consume and torture people. Let's give this family a copy of the address sheet. I gave my last copy to a woman who was running from guys last week. I need to get some more. It's not of you to run out. Don't ask. Anyway, how long are we quarantining the sphere and this family? The sphere could be decades, years at the least. As for this family, 2 years, and a secrecy agreement will do. If the man in black was being serious, I wasn't going to see my dad for a long time. I wanted to ask these agents why this situation was happening, but I stressed the answer would be too dark for me to handle. I remained silent. The sphere then displayed my dad's eye. The pupil was small, and the eye itself was teary. The pupil moved up and around, with the eye itself barely ever blinking. I couldn't think at all with how depressing and creepy this was. I was frozen. I wasn't doing anything inside the garage anymore in case this stuff would ever end up happening to me. A moment later, 6 soldiers arrived and attached ropes to the sphere's base. Tugging the ropes, they hauled it out of the tent. The pupil remained pointed in my direction as the sphere itself was tugged across the grassy yard. I didn't want to see my dad in this condition at all, especially if it was the last condition I'd see him in for a while. I pulled out my phone and put on his favorite song, Shadows by Slow Pulp, and played it on near full volume as he was tugged away. I followed him, watching his tears build. A few feet away from a flatbed truck, one of the soldiers ordered me to step back. I watched from afar as the soldiers placed the sphere onto the truck, then placed 2 layers of tarp over it. Then they drove off, disappearing into the night with my dad.